Huh?
Hello. Few minutes for our friends to come on. I hear it takes a minute for all the notifications to go out to be like, they're live, they're live. Now, before we get started, we were talking about some upcoming topics that we have. I'm kind of excited about the extraterrestrial healing stuff
Mhm.
next week. Update our Twitch stream description. There we go. Well, another episode of the Healer's Corner. Melissa and Maria coming at you. And today, this is going to be mostly the Maria show because Maria's like, let's talk about psychometry. And I'm like, yes, let's let you listen to psychometry. Um, because I didn't even realize that you did this very often. So when, I'm like, she's been holding out on me. We could have been promoting this in the store too as a method of reading for her. And she's just like casually kept this tucked to the side.
Oh, there's
That,
a lot of things I don't say.
well, it's
That I
out
do.
now. It is out now, ma'am. So we're talking about psychometry. How to use it when it's appropriate, and of course I'm going, oh cool, I've seen it used in doing psychic readings, but we're going to talk about how to use it in a way towards the healing. So not only for the client, but you as the facilitator, how to use it to help the client, and maybe even, I'm assuming, get some information of what you might need to be aware of in working with and addressing the client for what
Mm-hmm.
their issues might be. So, Maria, what exactly is psychometry? Because it is different than palmistry.
Yes. Yes. Psychometry is actually you have an object. Um, I have used objects. I have used pictures of also touching, like going into a house and you touching actually the wood frame, the doorway, the walls, and you get information because of the energy vibration that's coming off. Now, when I have a client and if I am not connecting to them or they're just stressed out because there's a lot of things going on in their day, sometimes I would ask a client, is there do you mind me holding onto your earring for a few minutes? Do you mind me to hold onto your ring? Because predominantly the jewelry is usually, a lot of people wear jewelry, or if they don't have a jewelry, if they have glasses on, I will ask them if I can hold on to the glasses. I am actually getting information from the energy of that object that they predominantly wear a lot of. But I have also had clients who have brought pictures to me. If the person, for some reason, I had a client a while back and she said she can't come to you. Is there a way? I said, sure, send me a picture. So I have done that before. I have looked at the picture. I put my hands on it because the energy, even though it's a piece of paper or whatever, the energy is coming off of that person I'm picking up. And then, therefore, what I'm doing is that I start doing a distant healing since she wasn't able to come in person. So I started doing a distant healing. And you can even do that with any object. I have taken a teddy bear and I have put the picture of that person on that bear. So that's pretty much what I do. I'm reading off the energy off of the object or the picture. And how I was trained to do this was we didn't even know this was coming. We had to collect an object, know a little bit of the history from it, not something that we personally own. We sealed it in an envelope. We also did that with a photograph. We sealed it in an envelope. So when we partnered off, the person can say, "Oops, sorry, it fell," or "Oops, sorry, it." So it was basically you're reading off what the object was. You're reading off the energy from that object and pinpointing certain things that's going on to that person. And then once you get that information, you can start releasing the trauma or the stale energy or the negative energy that person is going through.
So ultimately, it is holding an object of the person and reading to see what information you get.
Hmm.
Now, you mentioned jewelry and even eyeglasses. And so my little hamster wheels already started spinning and was like, is that because most jewelry have metal components, if not all metal, gold, silver, and
Hmm.
metals are great conductors, and or is it because we tend to wear it so much that that energy builds up more so than random other objects? Is that why maybe jewelry and glasses, and like maybe which one do you think it's more of the metal or
More of the well, the it's not just the metal that's picking up. It could be a crystal on that jewelry, and it doesn't have to be a natural crystal. It could be a lab created. It's picking up. So it's not so much the metal as the fact that it's a compounded energy embedded into that piece of jewelry in that glasses. Um, I know that I haven't done it, but I know somebody went as far as taking a piece of clothing of someone.
mm,
So it's just embedded energy into the woven into the clothing, into the fiber. So you can do that also and get information. It's a little bit tricky with clothing though, because especially if it's gone through the washer, there's
well, I was
still
going to say,
there's still a fragment of energy in it, and you really have to put the real focus on and really concentrate on that particular item, who it was, and you once you put your intention and you put your focus on it, you will get the information. You will know if it's a male or female. You will know exactly at what state they are. So it's like you're building this energy link to that person. And jewelry was really fascinating with jewelry is 'cause it could be a jewelry, someone that's in the present, that's living in this world, or someone that's already transitioned to the spirit world. And it's actually fun to do when you take it into like, oh, this is fun to do. I want to see how this goes. You know, I have taken say it's just like when you go to antique stores or secondhand stores, you can feel the piece of furniture and you
mm,
can feel the vibration. I have actually felt a piece of furniture while I was so sick. So I knew that person, whoever had that furniture, went through a lot of emotional struggles.
mm.
I was just getting information like this person uh was feeling so down and saddened and disappointed. So I was like, oh, I don't want to stay here. I need to go someplace else.
Now, I we've all seen it on TV and in movies, right? Where the psychic is like, "Let me hold something," and it's almost always clothing. But then I always wondered, when it comes to like DNA processing, the hair, the toothbrush, like, do you find like if you were to get hair from the brush, is that better than the clothing? Is it just as good as the jewelry? Better than the jewelry?
I never really got that deep into analyzing it, Melissa.
So, like, my science mind with this is like just going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Uh,
I never really, I just felt the energy. I let the energy come to me, and that's how I pretty much pick up. I never really analyzed it, and that's the thing. And you should know this. When it comes to healing readings or anything, you remove yourself out of it. You remove any kind of our typical analyzing, our typical judging the situation. We just let it come, the information come to us. It may not make sense to us, But as you start, this is what's coming to me, and you start telling them, and that it makes sense to the client.
Mm. Now, if somebody were like, this is really interesting, I want to start doing it, is this a type of reading where somebody needs to put in protection? Like, is there a worry of absorbing energy from the object as you're holding it?
There is a worry in any kind of modality that you do. So there is a degree of protection that you have to put. I start off any kind of reading or healing, whether I'm going to use psychometry as a tool. I start off doing a prayer, and that's always my go-to protection. Some people may just do an affirmation. Some people may use a particular spray. They may have some kind of talisman that already has been consecrated with a protection on it. Um, but there is a degree, because you really do not want to take anybody's energy, whether it's a stale energy, trauma, whatever. You don't want to take it on. I've had experience of that, and it's not fun. It really
So,
is.
no, I it makes me wonder, as I've gone through thrift stores and whatnot, as you will. I've picked up a couple things and was like, oh, that's cute, because I am a sucker for cute little trinket boxes and things. And
Hmm.
there's been a few times where I picked it up and went, ugh, and like put it back. And I'm like, I don't care how cute you are not coming home with me. And mainly because I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with cleansing and everything else. I'm like, that is not my circus. And so, I'm like, okay, maybe I was doing in a way a type of psychon without even really realizing it or meaning
Hmm.
to,
Hmm.
just because, and then I wondered, I'm like, okay, as I'm picking out stones and crystals and picking them up, some are like, I want to go home with you or go to the store, and others are like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, not you then. You stay here. You find your home some other way. You cannot go on this field trip. So, that it's just interesting, and maybe I've done it more than I've even really paid attention to or realize.
Hmm.
So you've mentioned imprints.
Hmm.
So what exactly is that imprint?
It's the energy imprint of the individual that owned that item. So it could be it's basically reading off their energy and whatever it has gone up. Like I said, whether they're living or whether they're in spirit world. So is an imprint in that item. Is there energy imprint in that item? And it tells a story. Um, I have some of my grandmother's stuff,
Hmm.
and like these piece of jewelry that she has, and I know that one of them was she was a very if she was in a happy state, and once in a while I'll put that piece of jewelry on me because I want the imprint also of her being in that happy euphoria state. And you can also take like if they had I had also acquired a blanket, and once in a while I'll wrap myself around it because I know that was a state that she was just pretty everything was okay in her life. So it tells you a story. um Sometimes a piece of jewelry may be with that person to the point that they were going through a lot of struggles, physically struggles. They were going through a lot of doctors procedures, being poking prop, and you will feel the energy of they didn't like that, they were not happy in that state. Those are the imprints that you want to cleanse. Those are the imprints that you want to remove. You know, um, my son has gone to thrift stores and jewelry stores and pick up, oh, that's cute, and then he comes home and said, Mom, I don't know. I liked it, but I don't know. Because, he's a jeweler, so he looks for vintage stuff. So he was like, I don't know. Can you do something with this? And I go, it's nice, but okay, let me go and work with it, you know. So it's the imprint of the energy of what is embedded in that object. Um, I have walked into a house, and although there wasn't any spirit in that house, I had to compose myself because I knew what I was getting into. I was getting into a house with embedded energy of several different families, and I was walking into frustration, anger, um, jealousy, guilt, sadden, depression. I knew that. And I was like, oh my God. I go, I rather deal with the spirit than deal with that.
Now, when you say remove and heal, is this an instance where, as you're healing that energy off of that piece, does that count as like the healing either for the person who has passed,
Mhm.
and or if they're still alive, does it send those ripples of healing to them in that moment as you're doing that work?
It may not hit them right away, but the energy line is already there. My intention is to get that energy to that person and remove anything that wasn't serving them anymore. So it's it will get there. It may not get there instantly, but you have to have faith in your abilities first place. You should know that, right?
Right.
That's why we do this. So if you have enough faith in your ability, that is, that energy is going straight to that individual, whoever owned that object before.
Now, a hot take question.
Okay.
Let's say you got a piece from grandma, right? And if she were still alive and you felt heaviness and trauma, and you go to heal that, can you send that healing to her without her permission?
No,
Haha.
I
Hang up.
like, yeah, I like permission. I dealt in the modalities where you have to ask permission. Now, there is instances that we just do a general shooting the energy over, but removing a particular chronic illness, that is a little bit tricky with the individual who has no awareness of this or doesn't even, you know, want it. You don't even know if they agree to it or want it. I've done a general healing when someone is incapacitated in a hospital, when they are in a coma, going through some a lot. Um, I had it's a contract that I created. That if I have knowledge of someone that doesn't have the vocal to give me the permission, then what I will do is I will go to their higher self and ask for permission. And if I get the go ahead, I will go ahead and do it. And if that person gave me an object that belongs to that person, that is that is great.
I mean, it kind of writes the line of like doing magical work too, where you're using something that either represents the other person or something of theirs to make that connection. So some magical practitioners need a focal point,
Hmm.
to for them to do that working, and so very similar that way. Um, so tuning in, what exactly is that tuning in? What should they expect? And I know kind of already. I think you're going to tell me it's going to be different per person,
Yes.
but
It's
how might they perceive when they're tuning in?
in any kind of in any kind of modality. I don't care if it's reading or doing healing work. You have to bring the intention to focus onto that client. So you tune into their energy field, and it's different. Anyone approach Anyone that will do this type of work will approach it differently. And sometimes you have to approach the client differently. You know, There are some clients that you can just just go in, and there are some clients you will feel that they're a little bit skeptical about this. You will feel there will be a certain of being on guard, so you it might take a little bit longer for you to do what you need to do to get the information that you need. That's why I love working with objects, because the objects just hold the information right there. You just it just holds the information, so you get, someone brings a photograph of that individual, or someone brings in a piece of item from that individual. It just holds it, it's
And
right
that
there.
object, right?
Yeah,
And that object has no opinion.
exactly.
So, so as you're getting
They
that
won't
in,
talk back to you.
right, right, no sass, no shenanigans,
Mhm.
So now as you're getting that information, that person receiving it, I'm sure they can like maybe get movies in their head. It could be like just a knowing of what's going on. Might they feel it in their body if it's physical issues?
um for some people it might be instant. It will most like there is an energy shift, and it depends on the individual. Again, it might hit them instantly, or it might take a few hours, or even a couple of days
For the client to get the healing, right?
to get the
Now,
healing.
what about the person that's trying to read the information? How might they perceive it?
Well, for me, when I have the information right away, I know exactly what this client needs. So I start doing the healing work on it. I start um I either will do it I'm a pranic healer. And pranic healing is an energy modality, and I would do the pranic healing part of it, you know. So I have this object. I don't know what that person looks like, but I have an idea of what their energy field is. So I have like a little diagram of a human body, and I'm just placing that the energy on that diagram of the human body where it needs to where I need to release any stale negative energy from that person. So it's just
So
some commentary is just basically getting information for you to start understanding. You can use it to see if you have inherited something from an ancestor. You can see it, what their life was about, and have an understanding why they did things the way they did things. You can look into a person's past life. Now, if there's information that you don't want to know about your family member, then don't do that.
now, but
Don't do
the way that they might perceive it. So if I am holding an object of yours and I'm
that.
trying to get info, all the goods on Maria, um, because I am lucky enough that I have, the imagination where it's I can see the movie, right? So
Hmm.
I might see it.
Hmm.
Somebody else might feel in the body that information. So if it were trying to help you heal an illness, maybe I would feel it in the body where that's happening, or a place that maybe we didn't even know was there yet.
Hmm.
They could hear their guides maybe
Hmm.
telling them the information. Um, so there's different ways that you can get that information off that object and then know what to do with it once you have that information to start doing that healing work.
Yes.
Um, because I know there are some people, and I forget what that technical term is, where they do not have that mental movie. And when I learned that, I was astounded. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have a movie and you can't picture, the walk on the beach? What do you mean you can't do that? So, but there's other ways to get that information when holding that object.
Hmm.
There's no way that's better than another. It's just right, how you would hold
Perceive.
that.
Yeah. And another thing too is that a great deal of of everyone. We're all emotional beings. That's what we came in this world with, is our emotion. In order to communicate, we didn't come out of the womb knowing how to talk or communicate in by words. So we communicated with our emotion. We cried a certain way if we wanted to be changed. We cried a certain way if we were hungry. So our emotions, that's why we're emotional beings. Our emotion, it helps funnel us into this world. And that was the very first communication that we had, is our emotion. So I'm not surprised that when you went to the thrift store and you pick up an object and you was like, oh, okay, I'll take you. Oh, you're cute, but I can't take you. Because your emotion already, it had built a bridge with that energy in that object.
Well, I think being able to recognize what that emotion is, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, I could understand what that was and like, no, I don't need that right now. And this particular time in my life, I don't have the time nor the desire to clear it, take care of it, send that healing. And I'm like, that is somebody else's problem, as bad as that sounds saying that out loud. But that's kind of what it came down to. And it was like not long after that where I'm like, you know what? I really don't need to be thrifting anything. Um, I don't need that brought into my house. And maybe that's a whole other topic that we touch on, is like used objects and working and dealing with them. Because I have a whole story around an ottoman that got gifted from the Crazy Sisters, and the man attached to that. Um,
Oh, I have a lot of crazy stories also, especially when uh, a husband and wife that were divorced, and in the middle of the night woke up and went over to his ex-wife's house because of a object that was bought in an estate sale. So that we could talk more about that. But your energy, it's like we're energy beings. So if you have awareness of yourself, awareness of being present in the now, and awareness of whoever's in that space at that time, you will have an awareness of, oh, you don't feel good, so I'm not going to buy you. You know, every
mhm.
single object. Because I do this too. I don't care if that object is brand new or from a thrift store. I will come home and I will cleanse it. I
So
just,
what do you do for cleansing? Because I'm sure there's brand new people who would be like, well, what do you do to cleanse it? So spill the beans, Maria. How do you cleanse it?
well, the easiest way for me, and when I'm really lazy, but I know it, I will actually blast them with electric violet. I will take the piece of and I won't take it in the house. I will either do it in the backyard or I will do it on my porch. And I put that down and then I just blast them with electric violet flame, or I picture a tornado going around it with electric violet. That's how I know it. That's how I do it when I'm pretty much not into the whole. We'll take out the healing bucket and the spray. We'll do it like, I'm imagining you like a person, and I will just cleanse you by removing any cords. And yeah, I just blast it with electric violet. That's the quickest way. And I actually did that for, it was years ago when we were at the John Christ Winery. There was this person who was getting a reading, and this person knew enough that the cards were, whoever was there before, the cards were sticky. So pulled me because she knew that I could do healing on it. And I said, okay, fine, just lay it down on the ground and let me start doing it. And I just blasted with electric violet. And they both saw what was going on. I don't see. I feel energy. I have a knowing, but I don't see. They both saw what was going on as I was sweeping with electric violet. And then when the person came and picked up her cards, she noticed a difference in the cards.
Now, for the layperson who is not trained in doing such things, um, salt will cleanse just about anything. But this is where, depending on your item, you might need to be careful. There are
Mhm.
certain types of metals that can have reactions to salts and stuff. So a bowl of salt or sprinkle salt on something, sunlight cleanses and recharges just about everything.
Yes.
So an hour or two out in the sunlight is going to cleanse and recharge, anything. You do have your moonlight,
Hmm.
um, which is really just sunlight reflected off the giant rock in the sky. Funny how that works. Um, water, running water is
Hmm.
cleansing. Citrus oils are very cleansing, but that's also, be careful depending on the object and the material. You don't want to stain it or ruin, what that
Hmm.
might be. There are certain herbs, the smoke of herbs when they're burning, that you can use for cleansing things. So, it really comes down to, like, what are you comfortable doing? What do you happen to have that you can do that cleansing with? Because it doesn't really need to be long, drawn out, and like a huge process to cleanse the items. Um, Now, let's say you're at a psychic fair and you are doing, different psychometry readings for people. Are you cleansing your hands between each
Yes.
item that you're touching, so you're not like transposing down the line?
Yes, I do that. Again, because I was trained, I blast electric violet in my hands. You know, I can be out and about, and I'm not going to carry a salt bucket with me. I'm not going to carry my spray with me. I'm not going to even carry my crystal wand with me. But if and this have happened. I had a family member that was really um not feeling so good, so took him on the side, and I started doing healings. My hands, and I and each time, and when you're doing cleansing, you're just removing stuff. But when you want to infuse energy, you don't want to do it with dirty hands.
Mm.
So I blast it with electric violet, or if I can, I will go ahead and just go down to Mother Earth and rub my hands on the grass and the dirt.
Well, that's, as you said, Mother Earth. I'm like, oh yeah, some things you can bury,
Yeah.
for a little. Remember where you buried it, for one. So
Get a
you don't lose
pot and put Mother Earth soil in it so you won't be losing your stuff.
it. And say, and depending, some little critters outside like shiny things, and may run away with things. So keep an eye if you're using sunlight and earth, like that, they're not absconded with and gone. Um, which I hear stories of some of our customers coming in. They're like, I put the tray out for full moon and I went back and they're missing. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, they like shiny pretties too. So,
They're trinkets.
yeah, right, right. Um, your neighbor
Um,
may or may not have trained a crow to come steal your shiny thing. Um,
yeah, and another thing that I also do is sometimes if I'm comfortable with a huge big crowd, I will do on my hands. I will go just wave it back and forth.
now I'm going to see you walking around going, Oh, don't mind her. She's just cleansing her hands. It's fine. Don't mind Maria. Right? Or Calavera is like the Fae. The Fae will steal shiny pretties too. And sometimes they bring them back a while later. Um,
Hmm.
well, if you guys have any questions or comments about psychometry, feel free to ask in chat. We'll make Maria answer them, because Maria is way more the expert on this than I am.
Well, to start psychometry, if you guys want to try it, I mean, it's really not that hard. Because like that, you already have something going for you. You we already are emotional beings. It's just tuning into the frequency of the energy in that object. So if you whatever I know meditation is not what everyone think it is. It's not sitting down going on with your eyes closed. You can take a walk, take a 10-minute walk by yourself. Okay, pay attention to what's in front of you as you walk. That's a being mindful and meditation at the same time. If you love to draw or paint, go ahead and do that. um you are in the zone, you're pretty much centered, and then you can pick up an object, and then sit with it, put it in your hand, sit with it. Before you pick up the object, though, set the intention that whatever information you get, that is something that you need to pay attention to, you know so you sit with it for maybe 5-10 minutes, and you will get some kind of information, whether you will feel it, hear it, or you get that mental vision, or you just have a knowing. And then, when you get the information, then you can go ahead and do facilitate a cleansing. If you know how to do Reiki, pranic healing. If you don't know how to do any kind of modality, then why don't you just set the intention that the energy, positive energy, is going through that person, a blessing or something. You can even, the easiest one is a prayer or an affirmation. With good intention, you're sending this healing or blessing to this person.
Nice. Well, we don't have any questions, surprisingly enough. We've either wowed them so much with the information that they're still processing, or they're like, well, we already know how to do it. um, yeah, if you guys have any last minute questions or comments, now is the time to put them in chat. Um, like I said, I think I've only done it by accident without realizing it, like, the thrift store or little things. But I think too, when you're doing healing work on people, and as you're touching them, like getting that information would also could be coming through the hands, not just the whole, energy reading. And maybe healers are doing that more often than they realize, especially people that are like combo massage therapists and Reiki practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, well, we need to focus a little more over here. Well, how did you know? Maybe that came through the hands without even realizing it, because you're
Yes.
reading the energy of the body,
Mm-hmm.
finding those blockages or where that stuck energy is, or, you know, um, just knowing that and working with it. But yeah, tonight we were talking about psychometry, which is doing energy readings using the hands, holding things. And I'm sure everybody has seen the movies where the psychic is holding something and their eyes are scrunched up really tight and they're like, oh, they're in the woods by water. Um, it's not usually that dramatic.
No, it's not. And a lot of this time is that you're trying to force it, and that's not how energy works. It comes to you. Let it come to you. So basically, remove yourself out of the equation. And when I say self, I'm talking about analyzing any piece of word or information, and accept the fact that this is coming to you for a reason. And then don't sit there and say, did I imagine that, or is that something that came to me, or is it, once you start questioning it, what happens is that you put a block on any kind of information you're getting. So don't question it. Just let it come to you, and then once it comes to you, then you can go ahead and proceed to the next thing to help that person. You can send a prayer or blessing if you haven't trained in energy healing at all. Um, or and but the most important thing you need to bring is your intention for this person, healing session. Basically focus on the person. You have nothing to do with it. You're just the facilitator.
You're just the messenger,
That's
really.
it. Yeah,
So,
you have
um,
nothing to do with it. You're just the conduit that's being used for the energy.
Right, right. Um, Fun topic, I think, and it's so easy to practice too, because it's not like with Oracle or tarot cards where you got to memorize a bunch of things. Um, you could probably try it out with a friend where maybe even get like a coin, cleanse it off. Each of you have a
Mhm.
coin and focus some sort of
Yeah.
thought or emotion or something into the coin and then trade it off and then see if you can pick up one another's energy or what they were
You're,
putting into
you're
that coin.
froze, Melissa.
Am I back?
Hello.
Am I back? Here we go. I look
Chatted.
okay.
Yeah, you froze. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, practice with your friend. You can practice. Why don't you guys get a piece of jewelry, not yours, someone that belongs to a family member or another friend, and start working with it. Trade off, and then see what comes up, what that person picks up. It's actually pretty fun when you start working with it. Make it as a game. Don't be so serious. Don't do what they do in the movie where they're just
Life or death by holding this watch. Yeah, not so much.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, do that. But it's really fun. I mean, I didn't know what psychometry was when I was introduced to it. I was like, "Oh, I like this. This is really fun."
all right.
So yeah, you can even you don't even have to get a piece of you can get a book someone has, a book that someone has you have read, a book that they have. I mean, it could be any kind of object.
I wish I would have been able to get one of my grandfather's pipes because he smoked pipe, and I loved the smell of the tobacco. And it would just be interesting to have one of Grandpa George's pipes and like have people,
Yeah,
off of that.
it, but what can you get off of this? And like you can use the same piece of object. You can have like three of your friends, same piece of object, and each person might get something different.
Mhm.
Is because is the person's sensibility to certain things. They may get a piece of information that you didn't get, and that's okay because it's still your grandfather's pipe.
Right.
Yeah.
And they may be more accustomed or not accustomed, but attuned to certain types of emotion or thoughts or images, and it's easier for them to relay that information than maybe, somebody else because they have no concept of what that is.
Mhm.
Like if somebody were holding Grandpa George's pipe and they're like, for some reason, like, why do telephones come to mind? And I'm like, oh, because he worked for the telephone company. But somebody else may not even say that out loud because they're like confused by an image of a telephone while holding a pipe. Like, what does one have to do with the other?
Mhm.
But psychometry can be fun and it's very easy to practice.
Yeah, it really is. It's the easiest thing. A lot of Hollywood had made it so like it's such a far fetched to do, and it's not. It's the easiest thing to do because you already have something that we all have is emotions. Emotions, that is energy. So one person, like I said, one person might pick up on a certain emotion. Somebody may be picking up on something physical. Somebody might see a vision. It's all different on how we pick it up.
Well, if you guys have any questions or comments, we'll do our best to answer them while we wait for some of those to come in. I think it'd be a good time to point out that next week we're going to have a guest with us, uh, Kayla Ray. She has been at some of our psychic fairs, and she is going to get into the topic of extraterrestrial healing and those energies because she is friends with and works with all of those types of beings. Um, like when I came back from Tucson the one year and had some extra friends that followed me home, And it took a couple days to realize what it was going on. And the first thing I did when my light bulb went off was I picked up my phone, texted Kayla. I'm like, call your friends off. Like, and why are they here? So, to go over some extraterrestrial energies, working with them, healing with them, the past lives that you may have had on other planets, and how that corresponds to this lifetime, and the shenanigans that could be coming up from that, and how she works with it and heals with it. And I think it's going to be fun to have that conversation with you. So if you are into any of that outer space extraterrestrial topic, make sure you join us next week, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to get into all things alien. And then we have a week after that, sound healing with a sound healer.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have that on mute because our friend for that, I always say he's very noisy because he loves making noise and playing things. And, I'm like, why are you so loud? I'm like, there is healing in silence as well, sir. Why are you so loud? So he'll go over different frequencies, tuning forks, the frequency of forks for like planetary and angels and how to use them. So we'll have him as well. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining. We hope we'll see you next week. Same channels, however you're watching, and we look forward to talking with you then. Bye, guys.
Bye.